Good evening from the News and Current Affairs Department here at Freedom Communications Incorporated. Welcome to this Tuesday, January 24, 2023 edition of News Basket. 45 minutes of the latest factual news happenings, making news in Liberia and elsewhere. This is a Jeff Jefferson presentation. The top developments are following tonight. President George Weah suspends import tariffs on agriculture produce and materials with immediate effect. Submits to the Liberian Senate for ratification and finalize an agreement between the government of Liberia and the International Development Association. Grand Crew County Senator Nimini Batukwa proposes a law that will ensure that health facilities across the country have equipment to attend to patients who are received between 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. The Liberian National Police forwards to co-defendant Liston Yeket for allegedly killing his girlfriend Semilia Darling Fuller in the Sopene community. Away from home, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has marked the opening of a $1.5 billion Chinese-funded deep seaport in the commercial hub of Lagos that authorities hope will help grow the West African nation's ailing economy. The details of these developments, the voices of the newsmakers, the news bulletins post are packaged in this edition of the news program, proudly sponsored by Crime Stoppers Liberia Relay, or Hard Work Radio in Popa District, Grand Kibwa County. At this juncture, we cross over to the news center where Hagar Gonda is seated to read for us the bulletin. Good evening, Hagar.
Good evening, Chef, and as well to our many audience. President George Weah has suspended import tariffs on agricultural products and material with immediate effect. President Weah's action is contained in Executive Order number 115 issued Monday, January 23, which aims to solidify the gains realized under Executive Order number 106 to continue to accelerate the development of the forestry and agriculture sectors in the country. The action furthered that the government's determination to seek and promote a stable macroeconomic environment and enable private sector-led economic growth, greater impunity and that's the diversification of the economy. The order is consistent with the PAPD, the Liberian government, and international partners' determination towards making tremendous strides to boost the agriculture sector by working with key market players to make agriculture affordable for farmers through inter-alien formed development and management aggregation, good agriculture practice, training and enabling legislation that will boost agricultural output. The president also indicated that the decision stemmed from the findings of local and international partners of the agriculture sector and the government's internal review process, which discovered that the tariffs associated with agricultural imports are high and affecting the agriculture sector and poor rural farmers who rely tremendously on agriculture for livelihood. The Liberian leader indicated in the order that it is also against the realization that the crucial effect that such high tariffs have on the agriculture sector and livelihood of rural farmers. Its agenda to promote a stable macroeconomic environment and enable private sector growth. At the same time, President George Weah has submitted to the Liberian Senate for ratification a financing agreement between the government of Liberia and the International Development Bank, or the RDA. The agreement, according to a communication from the Liberian leader, was signed on July 4, 2022 between the government of Liberia and the International Development Association with the objective of improving social and livelihood services for women and girls in targeted communities. The agreement further seeks to foster positive and social norms and as well strengthening the government's capacity to advance women and girls' empowerment across the country. The president's communication at the same time disclosed that the agreement will extend to the Republic of Liberia a grant and credit deemed as concessional financing in the tune of US 13,300,000 special drawing rights and 13,300,000 as grant. It further that the amount of US 20 million special drawing right and 20 million as credit, expressing hope that the Senate will ratify the agreement to help strengthen the government's capacity to advance women and girls' empowerment. For their part, members of the Liberian Senate voted forwarding the president's communication to the committees on Ways, Means and Finance and Judiciary to report to plenary. Grand Crew County Senator nominee Batikwa is proposing a law that will ensure that health facilities across the country have equipment to attend to patients who are received between 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Senator Batikwa, in his communication to the plenary of the Liberian Senate Tuesday, attributed the high cost of death rate in the country to the alleged action of health facilities to reject patients with treatable conditions during the evening hours. The Grand Crew County Senator's communication further called on the Liberian Senate to make it mandatory for all health facilities to acquire essential equipment, including reserve beds and other materials that will enable them to attend to emergency cases during night hours. The law, when passed by the legislature, will further mandate health workers at health facilities to work with family members of emergency cases who will be received for referral to another health facilities for proper treatment and recommendations. Senator Batikwa's expressed belief that when such is done, it will help reduce the number of deaths across the country, which results from the attitude of health workers at various health facilities across the country. Following the reading of Senator Batikwa's communication in plenary, the communication was forwarded to the Senate Committee on Health to review the document and advise that body on decision to be taken after a motion from Montserrat County Senator Cy Joseph. The Senate Committee Chair on Judiciary, Human Rights Claims and Petition, Vani Sherman, is requesting the Liberian Senate to ensure that debt owed to counties by the government is paid. The debt, according to Sherman's communication to plenary Tuesday, includes annual county development funds between 2018 to 2023, county or social development funds, and land rental fees paid by concession companies. Senator Sherman, in his communication, accused the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning of failing each year to disperse the county or social development funds to various counties as provided by an act of legislation. The communication further noted that by law, the county and social development fund payment and land rental fees from concession companies are paid to the consolidated account at the Central Bank of Liberia, which is being managed by the Ministry of Finance, but alleged that such are not being paid in full to the benefiting counties. Meanwhile, the Senate plenary voted for the Grand Cape County Senators' communication to form part of their planned discussion with authorities of the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. The Liberia National Police has forwarded defendant Leighton Yeke to the Monrovia City Court at the Temple of Justice for allegedly killing his girlfriend Samidia Darling Fronner in the Soul Clinic community. Defendant Yeke on Tuesday, January 24, was forwarded to the court for several crimes to include possession and sale of physical object for lighter use, possession of firearms, and manslaughter in violation of Chapter 14 and 17, Section 14.2 and 17.11 of the new penal law of the Republic of Liberia, pending court trial. During police investigation conducted into the circumstances surrounding the death of the late Fronner, it was revealed that on Monday, January 2, victim Fronner, along with her boyfriend, defendant Yekel, accused and others from Soul Clinic community proceeded to Zizi community and to patrol in celebration of the New Year holiday and stay out until 12 a.m., at which time they returned to Soul Clinic community at an other entertainment center and spent additional time there before they decided to go home. They got to victim funeral, the deceased parents' residence, and having spent about 30 minutes there, Defendant Yeke requested for his belongings to go home, which include waist bag and jackets, which were given him by Joyce Daju, older sister of the late Samidia Ferner, the police charge sheet revealed. According to the police charge sheet, when the defendant received his items in the midst of everyone, defendant Yeke took a single barrel gunshot pistol which he held in his hand, which brought fear to his friends, but decided to open the gun to show his friends that the gun had no shots in it. But in the process, the gun fired and hit the deceased, who was standing in the direct opposite. The charge sheet further that after the incident, the deceased was immediately placed over a motorbike and was rushed to a nearby hospital, but was referred to the John F. Kennedy Medical Hospital, where she was pronounced dead by doctors upon arrival. In the wake of the saga surrounding the operations of Western Cluster Limited in Liberia, citizens of Bomi County under the banner Citizens United for the Impeachment of Senator Edwin Snow have threatened to impeach their lawmaker. Speaking with Newsman Tuesday, the chairperson of the movement and former representative aspirant of District 2 Bomi County, Charles Brown, explained that Western Cluster, which was operational in Liberia before the outbreak of the Ebola virus, was reintroduced to Liberia about 9 months ago through the instrumentality of Bomi County Senator Edwin Snow and other government officials. The coming back of Western Cluster to Liberia, according to Brown, left citizens of bombing with the expectation that the developments in the country was underway upon their return, something he said has not been actualized over the 9 months of the operation of Western Cluster. Charles Brown further that upon the return of Western Cluster, the MDA, which was signed by the government and Western Cluster under the administration of former President Eileen Johnson Sirleaf, was turned down, and a MOU that has no significant benefit for the people of Bomi County was introduced with no benefit to the county. He further accused the Bomi County Senator of waiving $14 million to Western Cluster out of $24 million that the company owed the country, something he said was a means to bring back Western Cluster. Among other things, Brown listed 5 counts that warrant the impeachment of Senator Snow, ranging from a 5-person scholarship that was given to the county by Western Cluster, the senator's consensus to a MOU instead of the MDA, the lawmaker agreement that certain parts of the road from Bomi be temporarily worked on while the other is constructed as a new road, among others. Lamenting further, Charles disclosed that they recently have about 2,168 persons who have signed on to the impeachment of Senator Edwin Snow, as Senator Snow is yet to respond. The man who reportedly stole the 70,000 United States dollars that was intended for the retired suffering rally organized by the collaborating political parties has finally been released from the Monrovia Central Prison. Suspect Simeon Davis was released Monday by Magistrate Joma Jala after he proffered a valid criminal appearance bond along with 2 human sureties as provided by law. After approving Suspect Davis' bond, according to our judicial correspondent, Magistrate Jala transferred the case to the Criminal Court A on grounds that the amount in question is above his jurisdiction. Our judicial correspondent further said that police transfer suspect Simon Davis to the Monrovia City Court on January 20 to face criminal prosecution following his arrest by Interpol officers in Sierra Leone, where he was reportedly hiding when he allegedly stole the amount in question. The Movement for Democracy and Reconstruction, or the MDR, has reacted to its vice chairman for political and governmental affairs, Wilfred Bangura, for taking issues with the party's founder and former standard bearer, Senator Prince Johnson and Jeremiah Coon, for unilaterally notifying the party's support to President George Weah in the pending 2023 general and presidential elections. Addressing a news conference Tuesday in Monrovia, the vice chair for press and propaganda, Kelvin Matari, said the press conference that Bangura held runs contrary to the party's position. According to the vice chair for press and propaganda, national executive committees and had no knowledge of the self-proclaimed press conference held on Monday by the vice chair for political affairs and governmental affairs, Wilfred Bangura, which is not in the interest of the party. Well, Jeff, that's it for the news bulletin. It's back to you for the continuation of the news program.
Hagar Gonda in the news bulletin. It is a regular feature on Freedom News Basket. 45 minutes of the latest factual news happenings making news in Liberia and elsewhere. If you're just joining us, a reminder, you're listening to the Tuesday, January 24, 2023 edition of Freedom News Basket. 45 minutes of the latest factual captivating news happenings about Liberia and elsewhere. One of the top developments following tonight, the President George Weah suspends import tariffs on agriculture products and materials with immediate effects. Let's now bring you the voices of those making the news. A motion seeking to return property and to suppress evidence has accused the three officers of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency of allegedly stealing several valuable items from two Liberian citizens. Deliman George and Prince Tamba alleged that officers Papi Sema, Mohamed Keita, and Victor Cole of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency allegedly stole their gold ring and chain, along with 1,500 United States dollars from the NY, effecting an arrest order. George and Tamba assertion against the three DEA officers, according to our judicial correspondent, was contained in the 6-count motion filed before the stipendiary magistrate of the West Point Magisterial Court, seeking to return property and to suppress evidence. This is Deliman George speaking with our judicial correspondent Tuesday at the Temple. This is Supreme Court of Liberia.
I never moved for jobs and I was not having jobs. What they did when they came to all after they arrested all, the first thing after they were beating all, they cuffed us. When all our items were confiscated by them, from there they took the car, they drove my car, they left me standing with Victor Co. Papi Soma, who happened to be the commander, carried the car. He brought, after 10 minutes ago, he brought the car back. He said, you put the man in the car, I had the crowd decided to ask. But why you carry the man car and you did not do a search? Then you bring the car back. So when they packed my car, I decided to ask for my property. The only statement from the mob, they were because of Dara being we suffering you. Because Dara is going in beef with our director. I think about Dara self, I found from when you said for the agency, and like I was told, Dara was dismayed. So if Dara and your director is in beef, Dara is former DA officer who served as the assistant director for LDA. Dara is my friend, brother. Exactly. So I want to say in the presence of people. Exactly. So what I told you, I said you already planted the jaws in my car. You said you want to do a search. So why you planted the jaws and never went there? You went out the back, acting like in section. You had to open it and you had to go 3 tubes from there. What take? And do I look the man the way with jaws? I said no. So you took the market. They forced the market in my hand while on the call. They were done on the basis of duress. They took my photo along with the market in my hand. Of course, they planted the jaws. And then the commander came to me, Papi Soma, say, they want to talk to the judge that you're getting 500 US. I'm not giving you 500 US on the basis of what? So you up Princeton, I've got Princeton our president, the request of 500 US. So you put it in the car. I took her back to West Point. I didn't tell her to do a statement. I said, but I will not do a statement. So they did that own statement in our accent. When they brought this statement, say I should sign. I said, like, I can't sign statement where I don't read. When I read the statement, I said, but where all my acting, where my chain, where my ring, where my money, where the money I'm taking from my friend, where all my phones, only 10 over the summer phone like you see in my hand here. But they took my note now. My watch got 500 US, they took my watch. There's the only summer phone you see in my I want to tell what to the court. Say our court will judge. For all my personal belongings, it should be tell what to the court, me my actions. I get thousands of people that get proof to it, that get text to it. I know my ring, even the director. You should not arouse your peaceful citizen like that. You say I kept the judge, let me prove it in court. You take me to the court, you want to sign a tongue out bond. I should not go to Sobi other day, but I said no. I will go to Sobi to fight a legitimate bond. So in case of me, I will arrest her with judge. Let them take my ring and my chain and the money that was taken for us. Let them take it over to the court. I want justice. I call in the international community to listen to what we are about to say.
He's George, this Daily Manager, speaking with our judicial correspondent. Meanwhile, prosecuting lawyers have since denied George Tamba and Tamba claims against the law enforcement officers, saying they are involved in criminal prosecution after they were caught with drug. In the wake of the saga surrounding the operations of Western Cluster Liberia Limited, citizens of Bomi County under the banner Citizens United for the impeachment of Senator Eden Snow have threatened to impeach the lawmaker. Speaking with Newsman Tuesday, the chairperson of the movement and the former representative as part of District 2 Bomi County, Charles Brown, explained that Western Cluster, which was operational in Liberia before the outbreak of the Ebola virus, was reintroduced to Liberia about 9 months ago through the instrumentality of the Bomi County senator and other government officials. Charles Brown further that upon the return of Western Cluster, the MDA, which was signed by the government of Western Cluster under the administration of former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, was turned down in an MOU that has no significant benefit to the people of Bomi County, was introduced with no benefit.
I've come to the public to display what we intend to do to Honorable Edwin Mervyn Snow. This time you will not go unpunished. There are too many things he be doing in the country and for their leave it. So he's been claiming himself as a hero. Looking at what we are about to do, it will be a precedent set, and we're going to set that precedent. Honorable Snow, sometime last year, led a team of government officials, including himself, to India to arrange the coming by of Western Cluster. But before last year, we had a deal signed by the National Legislature printed into hand bill called the NDA from the Western Cluster from Eninito to the Western Cluster. Western Cluster, before leaving, Western Cluster decided that they wanted to truck the iron ore. And by then, under the Sirleaf government, we vehemently opposed the trucking of iron ore from Bomi to Monrovia. On the basis of that, we decided to go to a town in Dowen district called Jangoba, where Western Cluster agreed to have built a mini port and do the railroad from the MAM to the port to ship the iron ore of Liberia. We left on it until the Ebola came. Western Cluster left. So up to last year, Honorable Snow was brave to have gone with the Minister of Lands, Mines and Energy to negotiate the coming back of Western Cluster, for which we embrace. We thought it had some good motive. We thought the coming back of Western Cluster are going to provide job opportunity for our people. We're going to provide bigger opportunity in terms of education to upgrade our community college to a full degree college. We talk about the hospital. So Western Cluster are going to provide some medical equipment and even increase the facility of the hospital in Bomi County. But to dismay, none of these things happened. When Western Cluster returned, instead of Western Cluster starting full operation on the MDA, Honorable Snow, along with other government officials, turned the MDA down and came down with a memorandum of understanding where the memorandum of understanding did not state any benefit for the people of Bomi. So we as citizens have seen the operation of Western Cluster for good 9 months now in Liberia, and the people of Bomi stands to benefit anything. On the basis of that, we called the Bomi Legislative Caucus 4 Saturdays ago. Honorable Snow admitted to being the chief negotiator at the time because the chairperson of the caucus, Honorable Maurice Setuma, was present, and then Honorable Snow agreed that he was mandated by the Bahe colleagues from the Bomi Legislative Caucus to be the chief negotiator for the coming of Western Cluster. In the negotiation, Honorable Snow was brave to tell the people of Bomi and Liberia at large that Western Cluster were owing the people of Bomi and Liberia $24 million, but because he wanted Western Cluster to come back, he waited for
Our senatorial and representative candidates in all the 15 political divisions of the country in the upcoming October general and presidential election.
He's the vice chair for president propaganda of the Movement for Democracy and Reconstruction, Kelvin Matala, reacting to a press statement from the National Zayda Committee. That's the vice chair for press and propaganda of the MDR, Wilfred Bangura. Well, it's bringing us a couple of minutes past to have our mark in the news. At this juncture, we now cross over to the sports desk where Thomas Kujurula is seated to bring us the passion. Good evening, Thomas.
Hey, President, good evening to you, Jeff, and good evening to everyone. The Orange First Division League, which enjoyed a successful following a month, football fans resumed on today, Tuesday. The league took a break prior to the start of the December to January National County Sports Meet and the end of the first phase in Liberia. Being Mountain, which is facing pressured Helic, leads the table with 29 points, ahead of current champions Watanga FC 28 points in second spot. This FC, which occupies the third spot, have 27 points. Nima Kwado 24 points, Moscow FC 24 points. The second phase kick off with a 2-0 win for Heavy 11 against Nima Kwado in the Nima County Derby at the OH Anthony Totman Sports Stadium in Central Monrovia on Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll see reigning champion Watanga FC will be hoping to go top of the league table when they clash away to Jubilee FC for the second time at 3:30 p.m., during which time lovers of the sports in the suburbs of Painesville City will be expected to come out in the numbers to watch Watanga new additions that joined them during the mid-season. On Thursday, former champions FPRC Oilers will be at home to face the Rollers of Maribaro by 5:30 p.m. inside the Tusafe in Gunnersville. On Friday, Satan-based CC United will take on the Shipping Boys of Liska FC at the Anthony Totman Sports Stadium. Liska enjoyed the first leg of the two encounters with a heavy win to welcome CC United to the top tier of Liberian football. As on Saturday, the only game will see Invisible 11 IE, who are struggling, and they are 1 point ahead of the relegation zone. They'll be going again another relegation threatening Nima United at the SKD practice pitch. Meanwhile, on Sunday, January 29, league leaders Beam Mountain will seek to extend their lead top of the table when they play Burning Fire Muska FC at the SKD practice pitch as an afternoon showdown outside of Monrovia. The first leg of this encounter ended 1-0 in favor of the goal Boys, who collected all 3 points. Also on Sunday, Seni FC, who are experiencing life in the top tier for the second season, will take on Freeport FC at the Nezebito Sports Stadium in Kakata City, Makibi County. Ghana FC kicked off the second phase of the Orange Second Division League with a half-fought 2-1 win over Global Farmer on Tuesday at the Anthony Totman Sports Stadium. OTCA and Theo Williams were on the score sheet as Coach Muta Fofana Boys collected out of the 3 points. The win moved Ghana FC 5th place with 25 points from 16 league games, while Global Farmer remains in second with 31 points from the same amount of game. The construction of a mini football pitch in West Point by President George Weah is nearing completion following the installation of the future turf and other massive work at the sports pitch, with the venue expected to be dedicated early this year. The field, which was used by many footballers as a practice ground, after several years in District Number 7, Mosabado County is being transformed into a beautiful state-of-the-art facility. The new pitch will not only attract football fans to West Point, but will also deliver a great boost for local entertainment and other recreational purposes within the area. The field, when officially dedicated, will be open to the public, affording Liberians, particularly footballers, the opportunity to improve their skills. And away from home in the world of sports, Kwesi Appiah has revealed that he wants to manage the Ghanaian national team for the 3rd time, but admitted he still has to wait for his former employees to confirm his application. In 2014, Appiah became the first Ghanaian to lead a Black Star at the World Cup during an initial 2-year stint before returning for a less impressive second period in charge between April 2017 and January 2020. But the 62-year-old has submitted his application to the Ghanaian Football House in a bid to fill the void created by the departure of Ote Adu after the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Jeff, that's it for the Passion of Life Sports.
Thomas Kujurula in the Passion, a regular feature on Freedom News Basket. Let's continue with more developments in this edition of the news program. And to those of our live viewers, let's apologize for the break in transmission due to power outage. Grand Crew County Senator Numini Batikwa has proposed a law or is proposing a law that will ensure that health facilities across the country have equipment to attend to patients who are received between 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Senator Batikwa, in a communication to the plenary of the Liberian Senate Tuesday, attributed high death rate in the country to the alleged failure or action of health facilities to reject patients with treatable conditions during the evening hours. Senate Secretary Nabada Sangbe read the communication of the Grand Crew County Senator during the Tuesday sitting of the House of Senate.
Our compliments and have the honor to submit that, as you are aware, agreements ratified by the legislature for the exploitation of mineral resources or for the utilization of land. I have the honor to convey my compliments and herewith bring to the attention of the Senate plenary a serious situation occurring in the health sector of our country, which is silently inflicting a huge death toll on the Liberian population that needs to be addressed through the enactment of the appropriate health legislation. Mr. President, pro tempore and distinguished colleagues, the unwholesome practice of clinics, health centers, and hospitals turning emergency patients away at night hours without first receiving and stabilizing them until the following day before referring them on the claim of, quote, there is no bed, unquote, is causing huge deaths of several persons with minor cases that could easily be managed if they were given attention upon arrival at the health institution. As soon as a patient is turned away by more than 2 medical centers that are far apart in distance, the patient will definitely lose hope and eventually die in the process. In view of the above, I'm proposing that this Senate consider adding to the National Health Law of Liberia, personally before the Liberian Senate, the obligation that every clinic, health center, and all referral hospitals to receive all emergency patients brought to its facilities between 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. and exert all medical efforts to stabilize the patient and work with the family of the patient the following day in arranging the referral if there's a need. But no health facility shall reject a patient on the claim of, quote unquote, no bed, unless that facility is already closed. Accordingly, every clinic, health center, and or referral hospital shall have as a requirement certain number of reserved camped beds according to its size for the accommodation of emergency patients to be received, stabilized, and referred to the following day if necessary. If this proposal is included and medical institutions begin to adhere to it, the huge number of unnecessary deaths that is currently being experienced will be substantially reduced. Indeed, while I count on your fullest cooperation in this vein, please accept, Mr. President pro tempore and esteemed colleagues, the sentiments of my highest esteem and best wishes.
Senate Secretary Namuela Sangbe. Still at the level of the Liberian Senate, President George Weah has submitted to the Liberian Senate for ratification and finalizing agreement between the government of Liberia and the International Development Association. The agreement, according to a communication from the Liberian leader, was signed on July 4, 2022 between the government of Liberia and the RDA. The agreement for the six for positive to foster positive social norms and as well strengthen the government's capacity to advance women and girls empowerment across the country. The president's communication was read by the Assistant Secretary of the Liberian Senate, Genevieve Massacoy, in plenary during the third sitting of the 54th Liberian Legislature.
Dear Mr. President pro tempore, I am pleased to submit for ratification by the Honorable Legislature in quote financing agreement by Bureau Women in Private Project between the Republic of Liberia and International Development Association. This agreement was signed on July 4, 2022 between the International Development Association and the Republic of Liberia. The objectives of the project is to improve social and livelihood services for women and girls in targeted communities, foster positive social norms, and strengthen the government's capacity to advance women and girls' empowerment. Under the agreement, the association agrees to extend to the Republic of Liberia a grant and a credit which are deemed a concessional financing in the following amounts. A, an amount equivalent to 13,300,000 special drawing rights SDR, 13,300,000 as grant. And B, an amount equivalent to 20 million special drawing rights SRD, 20 million as credit. I trust that the legislature will ratify this agreement to help strengthen our capacity to advance women and girls empowerment. Sincerely, George M. Weir Sr.
She's Assistant Secretary of the Librarian Senate, Genevieve Massacre. The still of the news is the news from the foreign scene. This development will set the pace. Amidst the Western Cluster saga in Bowman County, the director of TVET at the Bowman County Community College, Thomas Packer, says converting the argument into proposal for training of the younger generation is the way forward. Speaking to our correspondent, Packer called on the management of the Western Cluster Liberia Limited to convert the training opportunities his department has into employment. Packer noted that for the company to employ citizens of the county, they must have the necessary skills and qualifications.
And I think my interest to the larger extent is converting the training opportunities we have into employment. So it is that idea I come to share, given my own experience into TVET, locally and nationally, the possibilities in converting the training opportunities we have into employment, because that's the bottom line of the whole thing. How can the young people be employed? And since we've been here for some time now, we see the need. How can one be employed? They have to be trained. Okay, and since we are in the training business from the end of the Medicine Institute, but it's a serious opportunity for us. I think we can share our own idea on how we can tap into that opportunity, because it's a blessing for us that we can make use of and be able to prepare the young people for employment. Okay, yeah. Someday, before all, mining, carpentry, masonry, and plumbing. We went into our traditional area, carpentry, masonry, plumbing. Then we went into electricity, okay, and domestic science, and for tailoring department, cosmetology, baking. We went through all of that. And it was the coming of Western Cluster. Far ahead of employment opportunity, we decided to say, look, hey, Western Cluster is here already. They will need manpower. And most of the guys they will need will be electricians. They will need everything.
He's Thomas Packer of Bowman County Technical College, urging the Western Cluster Liberia to capacitate young people in Bowman County to acquire technical vocational education for employment in the county. At this juncture, we rejoin Hagar Gonda to read for us the news from the foreign scene.
Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has marked the opening of a 1.5 billion Chinese-funded deep sea port in the commercial hub of Lagos that authorities hope will help grow the West African nation's aiding economy. The Lekki Deep Sea Port is one of the biggest in West Africa and will create hundreds of thousands of jobs in addition to the easing cargo congestion that costs billions of dollars in annual revenue. Lagos Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu said Monday the port can handle at least 2.5 billion 20-foot standard containers per year and will be operated as a joint venture between the Nigerian government, Singapore-based Telerin Group, and the Chinese state-owned Chinese Heber Engineering Company. Both foreign companies own a majority stake of 75% in the project. Nigeria is Africa's largest economy, but growth has been stalled for many years due to poor infrastructure and mismanagement. Although it has 6 major seaports, more than 80% of the country's imports are handled by just 2 of the ports in Lagos, where congestion has led to a massive loss in revenue as cargoes are often diverted to other West African nations. Jeff, is back to you.
Ikagonda in the news bulletin. That's the news from the foreign scene, the regular feature on Freedom News Basket. Well, folks, that's all of the time we've got to be with you on this edition of Freedom News Basket. 45 minutes of the latest factual news happenings about Liberia and else. Well, just before we leave you, a recap of the major developments we've been following. President George Weah suspends the import tariffs on agricultural products and materials with immediate effect. Submits to the Liberian Senate for ratification and finance the agreement between the government of Liberia and the International Development Association. Grand Crew County Senator Louis Batikwa proposes a law that will ensure that health facilities across the country have equipment to attend to patients who are received in between 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Liberia National Police forwards defendant Liston Yeke to the Monrovia City Court for allegedly killing his girlfriend, Samilia Darling Fuller, in the Soul Clinic community. Elsewhere, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari marked the opening of the 1.5 billion Chinese-funded deep-sea port in the commercial hub of Lagos, but authorities hope will help grow the West African nation's ailing economy. Many thanks to our contributors, correspondents, reporters, editorial team who helped make this edition of the News Basket a sources. Hikagona Reynolds, the News Bulletin, the Foreign Development. Thomas Kujorola brought us a Passion of Lives Pulse. An invitation that you join us tomorrow morning at 6 for Freedom News Inside. Crime Stoppers Liberia sponsored this presentation of the news program. It has been relayed on Heartwork Radio in Papa District, Grand Cape Mount County. Let's apologize for the technical glitches and, of course, the power outage during the presentation of the News Basket. On behalf of the team, thanks for listening and thanks for viewing. This has been the Jeff Jefferson presentation. Good evening from Monrovia.